Welcome back to the Renaissance Space podcast, where we have the opportunity to listen and better understand life in education. I'm delighted to welcome Maxine Low, who I met nearly 7 years ago now when I visited her school up in sunny Milton Keynes. Maxine's passion, but just as important, is her clear understanding and appreciation of the classroom needs in today's world of EdTech, post-COVID. The list goes on. If you want to learn more about horizon scanning, keep listening. Welcome, Maxine.
I know that you are a head teacher of one school on 2 sites. So maybe before we get started, we could learn a little bit about that, but also about who Maxine is.
So I am somebody who loves what I do. I am very, very lucky at the moment. I'm the head teacher of a sixth form entry split site. And it was 13 years ago. We opened in 2010, and it was at the time when academies and free schools were just coming in, but local authorities also had a chance to expand schools. And we were in a space to be able to come forward and say, actually, we are a brand new community. So my dad always describes it as you built from a field, Maxine, and you built a sixth form entry school. Aww. And that frightens me. That's all a bit scary, but that is what we did. We did that because we believed that in a brand new community, you need to put your roots down. And we wanted children that when they met in the park would know each other, that parents would, and that village around the children would keep each other's children safe. And that was really the starting point of any education system. How will we socially connect? How will we talk to each other? How will we learn and grow together? And how will adults keep those children safe and be the role models to then create off these fields that were just off junction 14 of the M1, how will we create that learning community? So we went along to a council meeting and we said, this is what we wanted to do. Could we have the second school? And they said, absolutely. Community cohesion is at the heart of every council. And therefore, if we were able to support them to do that, they would definitely give us the second site. So 2 sites Amazing. Were born in 2015. And yeah, my plan was to walk between the 2 of them, and that has never actually come to fruition.
Brilliant. That's lovely. I can imagine you're charging from one to another, and how lovely to have that wraparound frame almost that allows for those people, whether they're the parents, the children, or the teachers. How do you move that on into the buildings? And hopefully that's what we're going to talk about now in terms of that pedagogy, that teaching and learning, the way in which you as a head teacher are able to keep those challenges in the classroom going down the right track. How do you keep control?
Well, I think that's the first thing, is learn how to not be in control. And the second thing is learn how to accept your mistakes. You know that lovely phrase, my granddad used to use it on me, know all, know nothing. That's a little bit how it feels like every day. You know a little bit of everything, but in detail sometimes. And you don't know, you know it in detail, but you don't have to as a leader because you're part of a team. And my job really is to create spaces and places for people to come and have a voice about how we can improve our organisation, for children to have a voice about their learning and how they learn best, and for parents to have a voice about how we support them to be a parent within a difficult climate at the moment. And that's my job as a leader, is to so we use the mantra here, weaving a learning journey. So how do you start from the position you're in with the resources that you have, with the people around you and the talents and motivations they have, and how do you weave that all together into something that allows you to take a step forward. But I am definitely not a leader who would stand at the top. I stand alongside others. And I think that's immensely important. And I think one of the things that allows me to do that is that I started life as a nursery nurse. I've been a TA, I've been a midday supervisor, and I then became a teacher. I studied through the OU, and really the only drivers for doing that is what's the best way to learn and what's the best way to teach. They're very simple drivers, but I think seeing that bigger picture is and allowing every voice to come forward and valuing all those voices, because I was in those roles, I think has helped me then build this community.
Fantastic. And obviously allowing for innovation, creativity, personalization. They're the words that get bandied about, and everybody means well. But actually, how do you manage to weave those words into the practical application in a classroom?
I think you're quite right that those phrases are bandied about, and I think that we really miss the opportunity to embrace innovation, but you have to have a bottom-up approach. So innovation happens every single day in a classroom. So a teacher can have a strategy that they think, okay, this is going to make the difference. And we've got we're evidence-based now. So there's lots of evidence around us to say this strategy makes a difference. But actually, it's not until you take it into the classroom with that particular set of children who've become your class, and that you then apply it and you tweak it. And that's where the innovation occurs. But so often we never start there. We never ask teachers about the tweaks they're making. We don't capture those tweaks. And so therefore we can't share that innovation. And we really, really don't listen in our hierarchical system. We don't listen to out of the mouths of babes. So recently
Yes.
I've been looking at reading and really understanding with children the journey that they're going on, and how they're looking at that love of reading alongside their phonics, alongside the books that they can access within their homes, and listening to them really carefully. We don't ask children those questions, therefore, and we don't listen very carefully to teachers. So I'm not saying this is a product push, definitely, but one of the things I learned the other day about Myon is it reads it to the children, and the children were saying to me that really helps me after lunch to regulate. And then the next day, the evidence came out about the impact reading can have on mental health. And it was, you've got the big evidence up here, but actually it was out the mouth of an 8-year-old who is struggling with life, and sort of I just need to connect with something, and the book and Myon and being read to really helps me just be, particularly after lunch. And so I think innovation, we miss it in our education system because we don't listen to children who are receiving it, and we definitely don't listen to teachers who are creating it. And I think for me, the biggest thing that we missed was COVID, when teachers went from, we could have really celebrated at that point, because teachers went from face-to-face teaching to online teaching in nanoseconds. And we should have been really shouting from every tower that we've got in our education system to say, wow, look at these teachers. They are amazing. The work that they did to innovate, to connect to those pupils was absolutely exceptional. And yet we don't hear that in our system.
No,
and that's sad. That's sad for somebody who as a leader, I love my profession. I love what we do in our profession. If you come into, I'm the mum of an ECT, and ECTs come in to change the world, and they come in to make that difference. And we cannot wear them down by our hierarchical system that doesn't listen to their voice and doesn't build on their innovations that they're creating in their classrooms.
Amazing. And actually, you've touched on several points there, but the one I'd like to pick up on is EdTech, actually, because you've mentioned Myon, and I know that as a school you embrace it, technology. AI is very exciting and has all sorts of potential. And I know that you are pro AI, but that's with a caveat. It's with a sort of health warning. I wondered if you'd like to share that with us, Maxine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been a head teacher for 27 years this year, which is a long time, but I am so excited about being in the education space at the moment, and as a teacher, because I think we are entering another sense of urgency space. I think as teachers, we have a moral imperative to find ways through the current need for increased personalization post-COVID, the decrease in budgets and less resources and less TAs in our class, and the gaps that have appeared all over the place with COVID, whether that be SCMH, whether that be your historical journey, whether that be your reading journey. And I think that teachers are, they feel this sense of urgency, and they feel the need to do something about it. For some of them, it's too frightening, and they're leaving. And we need to stop them doing that by sharing each other's stories and sharing it. It can be scary, but actually we've been offered a huge gift. There are tools out there that we could bring in that could support us to personalize the learning journey for children. And I think at the moment, we're not talking and making enough noise about this gift that we've just been given. And what I really want to do is start to create a conversation around the pedagogy that we have and what we understand about teaching and learning, and then looking at the ed tech tools that we're bringing in. So it's not a case of, every child needs a computer. Why do they need a computer? How are you going to use that computer? How does that enhance SCMH? How does that enhance the level of personalization you can have in subjects? How do children want to connect their learning journeys from home to school? So the questions and the pedagogy are not going to change. We can hold on to those, and I think that will help people who only see education in a hierarchical way. It will, if we start with the pedagogy, it will help them feel a bit safer. But we really, really need to listen to what's going on in the classrooms, because teachers are using tools, they are networking in ways that leaders have not yet got a hold of. And the leader and the teacher have got to come together, because the teacher needs to share that innovation, and the leader needs to listen to the innovation that's happening, so that we can really, again, weave that journey together, and not separately. But I think it's so exciting at the moment. How are we going to do this, and how the classroom walls are coming down. Wow, what a time to be a teacher. Classroom walls are down, and equality, it has gone through the roof. We can access any resource we want now through the internet. So let's have a look about at what schools will look like in the future. How do we make sure that teachers have the energy to be able to shape the journeys of children's learning using these tools? So yeah, I'm really excited at the minute. Worn out from 27 years of headship, but what an exciting place to be a teacher at the moment. I don't hear that though in the press. I hear people leaving in droves, and I want to say, no, stop. 40 grand's worth of debt that you've come out with as a teacher shouldn't be thrown away really easily. But
No,
as leaders,
absolutely
we need to
not.
work a bit harder. As I say, the mum of an ECT, that debt is tough, and
Yes.
I don't want them to throw this profession away yet. I want them
No.
to enjoy the 27 years I've enjoyed, but we need to create some noise about teachers being innovators. Teachers have these solutions, and then being able to work out how they're going to share them.
So having these new people coming through the door with this excitement about ed technology, about their new careers, and then we think about the emerging technologies that are coming in, and how do you keep on top of all of that and not fall foul by getting distracted or going down a rabbit warren? Horizon scanning, that I've heard that used a lot just recently. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad that phrase is getting some traction, because so I recently took my MBA. I've got two girls, and they went to uni. There was 1 year where they crossed over, so I didn't have anyone in the house. Well, my husband was there, but I didn't have my girls in the house. So I decided I'd fill it with an MBA, which was interesting because it was also during COVID. But the one phrase that I would give others as a gift is horizon scanning. And I think we've borrowed that from business, because what happened during COVID was both the public and the private sector were leveled. We all had to work out our recoveries. So I look into what business are doing all the time. So one of the interesting horizon scanning areas at the moment is around invitational leadership. So if you look at the top, I think it's 50 FTSE companies globally, they're all moving to this invitational leadership, where it's standing by the side of others to hear their voice, so that you can then shape a pathway strategically that is going to keep you safe. And interestingly, then you're hearing it more and more, but almost, Sunday morning, I will, and this sounds sad and it's really not, but I'll make sure that I've read the business pages of the paper. I will put Sunday brunch on, but then I'll also flick over to the political programs to hear what they're saying. So being able to find networks, to listen to different podcasts or read different things, I think are that has just got a little bit wider for a school leader. Don't just look in the education system at the moment. See what Google are doing, see what those top FTSE companies are doing, see what Apple are doing. All of those big companies who are thriving. The minute I look in a business paper and it says this company has achieved this whatever, I don't like some of the profits, but immediately then just Google, what are they doing? How are they leading? How are they making sure that innovation is being heard in their businesses? And it is all about listening. How do you create structures to listen to people who are doing the day job, particularly the middle leaders? We don't listen to our TLRs enough, but you listen to them and you listen to people in the classrooms, and then you turn it into action. And I think that's the space for leadership at the moment. We've gone through and still in a heavy, I don't think we've fully recovered from our compliance drive. during COVID, where leadership was all about compliance to keep people safe. Well, we need a step change now, because we know how to be compliant, but now we need some innovation. And leaders particularly need that step change, because we have got the pedagogy. So, 27 years of doing the job, understanding how children learn and therefore how you teach needs to be threaded into any of the ed tech that's coming through. We have to build on the shoulders of what we've already achieved.
Fantastic. That leads in quite nicely to my sort of final point, really. We conducted a survey of 600 primary and secondary school teachers about reading, actually. And it's obviously linked with all sorts of other aspects. And one of the facts that came out as a result of the survey was how much time is spent by teachers supporting those children who are weak readers, or children who are perhaps not having access to a full curriculum because they can't read. And I just wondered if, as a sort of final roundup, you could say something as a leader, as a mum, as a teacher, as somebody who understands about teaching and learning. How can we ensure that reading remains at the heart of all of our teaching and learning?
Yeah, I mean, I also come from the position of being a dyslexic as well. So
Wow.
how do you get that love of reading when reading's hard? Reading is really hard. And you get that love of reading when the teacher reads. When you read, you invite your poets in. When you get the older children to go and read with the younger children. When you find a space and a place to read. And just recently in my observations, I've been encouraging people drop and read again, but not as a activity where no, the teacher doesn't really engage in anything, but drop and read. And some of children want a book study group. Some children want you to hear them so that you can work out using your assessment tools, what is it that's blocking these children. Others want to use the mind and be read to, so they can hear the models that they want to try and adopt, particularly in fluency. And I think that reading doesn't have to be a barrier in the 21st century, because there are so many devices that can read to you, that can help you decode, that can help you understand by modelling. It's not just the teacher modelling anymore, it's my own modelling, or we found another tool the other day that will read to you so that you can access that information. Because for me as a reader, and also as a mum, as you say, my children have dyslexic tendencies. It just took them longer. It just, and I, as a dyslexic, I remember being I was actually a nursery nurse at the time, and I was in a meeting learning about reading, actually, coincidentally, and I had to share this piece of reading with another teacher, and she took the piece of reading off me and said, "You're too slow, I can't share with you." And that has always stuck with me, that, yeah, I am a slow reader. But if you ask me at the end of that piece of reading, I probably comprehended. And I did watch this woman had been so abrupt. I watched her afterwards to see if she'd actually read it, and she hadn't. She scan read it. But I'd read it with meaning, but it just took longer. And so sometimes I just think the trajectories that we set sometimes in reading just aren't right. It takes longer for some people. And so the need to personalize reading is critical. And I think that we have got tools that would allow us to do it. We just need to make sure that leaders are looking holistically and are talking to children about their reading and how they're finding that reading. The little boy who said, just I'm really sorry to go back to it, but it was so powerful. The child with ADHD, he said to me, "Can I just sit and listen to Mayon?" And afterwards, he was self-regulating. He wasn't there for very long, but just to have a bit of a story and a connection, and to imagine through a book. We've got to find, that's where the innovation space is at the moment. How do we personalize reading so that we don't categorize children as not being able to read? They might just be taking longer.
That's a lovely finish, Maxine, because in this world of fast, quick technology, fast answers, children potentially lacking in stamina, we as educators and grown-ups need to allow that space and that time. You said find a space and a place. What a fantastic wrap up. What a fantastic spot. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely fascinating. I always love talking to you, and how lovely to be able to share this with others.
Likewise, thank you very much for the invitation. I'd often just sit in the school with my head down, ploughing through all of it, but I think the time has come to start putting heads up and start communicating with each other.
Thank you so much. Fantastic.
During my conversation with Maxine, I mentioned the survey we recently carried out, our campaign called Turning the Page. Jonathan Douglas, the Chief Executive of the National Literacy Trust, says, "When children and young people enjoy reading, it can unlock endless possibilities for their future, laying the foundations for greater academic success, mental well-being, and employment opportunities later in life." Please follow the link below if you'd like to read more and find out about how colleagues across the country and indeed the world were able to offer insight into just what reading can and should be doing. Well, wherever your space and place was, I hope you learned as much as I did. Listening was the message that came across loud and clear to children, as well as those incredible practitioners who carry so much for so many on their shoulders. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Renaissance Space podcast, please take a moment to rate and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget, you can catch up on all previous episodes at www.renlearn.co.uk/podcast. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Renaissance Space podcast, please check out the Education Joining the Dots podcast from our colleagues at GL Assessment. Thank you.